Welcome to our presentation, Sea Lion Inspirations in Starbucks. We called it this mainly because we're going to talk about how pollution affects the ocean and the animal and the wildlife in it. And Starbucks is known for having a lot of plastic cups, and it sounds nice. Anyway, so I am Aurelia, and this is Olivia,
Hi.
and we're from Troop 2847 of Girl Scouts, and this is part of our Spur Award. And we
All
thank you
right.
for participating.
Thank you. Okay. So first, to learn some more about marine pollution, we have to get a basis idea of what marine pollution is, because some people think of marine pollution and their mind immediately goes to plastic, and they think of sea lions and sea turtles, and save the turtles, and things of that such. But marine pollution can actually be a lot different, more things. So really, do you want to talk about like the different kinds of pollution there are and what pollution really is?
Trash is a very big part of pollution. It's certainly not the only type. We also have chemical pollution and ocean acidification. And marine pollution it disrupts ecosystem, it disrupts food chains and depletes the oxygen content in the water, and overall just harms marine life, in turn harming us. And this is a very important issue everywhere, especially here on the island because we're an island. So we're surrounded by ocean and all the sea life in it.
Yep. Okay, that's very helpful. And so here are three separate photos we have here. One is of ocean acidification, one is of plastic pollution, the other one's of liquid pollution. Liquid. Okay. So plastic pollution is it's the largest amount of pollution we find in the ocean. It's estimated that the mass of plastic in the ocean can be as high as 220 pounds. And plastic harms animal and food chains. And usually this plastic comes from one-use plastic items, such as utensils, plate cups, bags, or things of that such. And a type of plastic is called microplastics and microbeads. It's a very small pieces of plastic, and microbeads come from things like face wash, hand sanitizer. They're mass-produced little colorful beads, and they're put in like cosmetic products. And microplastics are tiny pieces of plastic that are degraded over time. Like if you broke up a plastic bag tons and tons and tons and tons of times, it would be really small pieces of plastic. And because they're very colorful, a lot of fish tend to eat these plastics. And not only they can't take in nutrients because it just sits in their stomach. It's gonna hurt their digestive system, and it's gonna end badly for them. And if they don't already die because of eating the plastic, they're gonna be eaten by larger animals, and then eventually the food chain continues, where that you could end up having fish on your plate that you bought at the market and that has plastic inside of it. And it's very bad for not only humans, but it's also bad for the ecosystem and the environment. So, really, do you want to talk about this presentation, this piece of art?
Yes. Yes. Okay, so this is an art piece that is based on a actual sperm whale that washed up onto a beach and was found to be containing over 64 pounds of plastic inside of it. And as you can see, this whale is made of entirely of plastic and other forms of solid pollution that ends up in the ocean. Because whales, they just float along and eat whatever comes across. So if a water bottle comes across, they're going to just eat it because they can't really see it because they're huge. And this ends up with them having pounds and pounds of plastic in them.
Mm-hmm. Which is very bad. It can
Mm.
not only kill small animals, but large animals as well. Okay. Really, do you want to talk about the albatross?
Okay, so the albatross is another bird that is also very harmed, very much harmed by the plastic in the ocean. And this is now considered an endangered species because of
Almost endangered.
the mainly the unique way in which they eat is they fly along the top of the water and they use their spoon-shaped bill and they scoop up what's on the top, which normally this would be fish, small fish and plankton. But because plastic floats, they end up swallowing a lot of plastic. And because they're birds, they also feed what they catch to their young. So now the baby birds have plastic in them, which can lead to them dying, and now they're considered on the endangered species.
Yes. So plastic is making these animals almost endangered. Okay. There's a chart of microplastics that can show you just basically the life cycle of plastic bag, just its life. It goes from being bagged, going into the ocean, and it shows out how it can end up in the food chain. Okay, so this is a kind of liquid pollution is known as phenols, and when polluted wastewater ends up in the ocean water that contain phenolic compounds, which are synthesized by companies, and they can be found in agricultural, domestic, or industrial waste, or lawn cleaners and anything of such, it's not good. Especially when these compounds, which are highly toxic, can end up in um, they end up in bodies of water like close to just areas where people live, and they can end up in your drinking water. Things like chlorophenol poisoning can burn your mouth and your throat, and it can put lesions on your body, and it's very harmful. And to think about this, you want to think about how not only just plastic pollution, things you can see, but also like things that end up in the water because of careless companies can also hurt your growth, can hurt you can hurt your lifespan. And so here are two separate rivers that are known for being close to large cities: Potomac, which is next to Washington D.C., and the Hudson River. The Potomac River image right there, it's not doesn't really capture how most people from Washington D.C. seem to think of the river as being just like super gross. And Hudson is not the cleanest thing ever. And you can kind of think about how liquid pollution has how man has helped to cause this this degradation of the water. So there's another image of wastewater sewage. All right. So, um, you might be a little concerned about this, and you're like, "Oh, so many bad things are going on. Is anyone trying to help out?" A lot of people are trying to help, and I really do want to talk about different organizations on Long Island that are helping to reduce pollution.
Okay, so Long Island has a lot of exposure to marine pollution because it's an island. And here we have a bunch of projects that help combat marine pollution. And one of these is the Billion Oyster Project, which goal is by 2035 we'll have restored 1 billion live oysters into the New York harbor. This project really helped save the New York oyster population, which was really small a while ago. And oysters are also natural filters to the water and therefore help combat marine pollution. Then we also have the Cornell Cooperative Marine Extension Program, or the CCE. And its goal is to help fishermen and other people who deal with marine life in the ocean create and use new technology to help take care of the environment and lessen our impact on it. We also have another organization which is called the Project Stewart Institute, or PSI, and the goal of PSI is to limit the amount of pollution going into the ocean and the bay by partnering with restaurants to use biodegradable containers for their food and takeout containers.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. And so here's a little image of the Cornell University, their signal. And okay, so we're going to talk about marine pollution. We also have to talk not just about how it affects us, but how it affects the animals living inside the water. And there are a lot of different ways that the pollution can affect marine life. Some of these ways, for example, is oil. You might think, is an oil spill marine pollution? It is, because when anything ends up in the water that's not supposed to be there, you're polluting the water because it's not supposed to be there. And so oil spills can actually really affect marine life, as it destroys the sea mammals' ability to keep out the cold, or they destroy because they secrete a type of oil that they helps keep them clean, like sea otters. It helps keep them clean, it helps keep them warm, and the birds do the same thing to their feathers. It keeps water off of them. And the crude oils that end up in the water destroy their natural shield from the environment. And then there are different types of plastic that can affect animals, and one of these is like macroplastics. We talked about microplastics, and microplastics are itty bitty pieces of plastic that are eaten by like really small animals. And macroplastics are larger. They're things like plastic bags that haven't, become tiny fishing nets or like plastic hand rings. And so these are very easy for an animal to get entangled in. And sometimes when you often think of marine pollution, you see an image of like a turtle tangled in a net or something along those lines. And you tend to just think about that. And it's actually pretty horrible how like turtles end up in fishing nets, or it makes them hard for them to swim, or they can't come up to the surface. If they're a marine mammal, they can't breathe. And here is two separate images, a what seems to be some kind of rope or net around a sea lion's neck, and an oil spill, which 1980, I think, it was a very devastating oil spill that killed hundreds of sea otters and seagulls, marine birds. Okay, so and then here's a little chart to show you the size of the plastics that end up in the water, and you can see here how macroplastics are the largest, and the smallest are nanoplastics, and then there are microplastics and mesoplastics. Okay, so Aurelia, do you want to talk about how we could help?
Okay, so there are many ways that we can help stop or slow the effect of marine pollution. And one of these main things is that if you're on a beach and you see trash on the sand or in the water, put it in the garbage can, but make sure to wash your hands after. And again, always put your trash in a trash can. We can't have it getting into the environment and somehow getting into the ocean or pollute the world in another way. 3. If possible, you can donate your time or money to one of the previously mentioned causes or the many others that are on Long Island and around and elsewhere. And 4. You can participate in beach cleanups or help promote them. 5. When you throw out soda can rings or any other plastic that is like this, when you do, cut the rings so it'll have a less of an impact on animals if it does end up in the water, and won't choke them. 6. Use reusable bottles, plates, utensils, and bags, and you should avoid plastic. When you go grocery shopping, try to use a reusable bag instead of getting plastic ones each time. 7. Try to use biodegradable containers that will degrade easily in the environment and not harm the environment as much. And 8. Recycle. Everyone says it, but it really helps. So recycle. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for helping us with our silver award. This has been Olivia and Aurelia. We are Troop 2847, and thank you for your time.